Y3, Yoji Yakamoto. Peace, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to this celebration of the great, the resplendent, the absolutely Prince Purple, Patricia Smith. I was sitting here trying to make a little, some adjustments to what I was going to say, and I was getting heckled by some folks sitting behind me while I was doing it. But I just want to make sure everything I say is right for Patricia because she's a great friend, one of my favorite poets, and also deserves everything we can give her tonight. So I hope, Chicago, that we will do that. It's such a pleasure to welcome you to the Poetry Foundation, this incredible building that Patricia and I were talking about feels like a place where we all figured out how we were going to do what we were going to do once we were allowed in. Every day we can, every day we can gather in this space is an opportunity to celebrate the art we all love. It's a good day, and it's today beyond good because we get to honor Patricia's work as we gather with all of these poets, community citizens, friends, in honor of Patricia Smith for her Chicago Literary Hall of Fame Fuller Award. Thank you. Thank you for honoring this person who matters so much. I need to share some specific things about the foundation and this space tonight before we get into a few personal things because I've got 5 minutes. Right? Now I got 3.5 minutes, right? We encourage masking as a courtesy to the artist, staff, and immunocompromised community present at this event. We have masks available at the front desk and also right here by the door if you need one. You can access captioning on your mobile devices or by scanning the QR code available at the front desk. If you're live streaming this on Zoom, you can access the captions through the toolbar at the bottom of the screen. There are access priority seats up in front, right by the ASL interpreters, so please feel free to come forward if that would benefit your experience. This is an intentionally relaxed space, as all the poetry spaces should be. You are welcome to move around, stim, or make noise. We empower you to take care of your bodily needs and make yourself more comfortable. There's a quiet space by the entrance right outside the door and bathrooms down a hall to the left when you exit the performance space, including a single-user, all-gender restroom through the double doors. In the event of an emergency, the emergency exit way back there in the back of the room, and you just push the door and you'll be out there. Finally, in recognition of our gathering on unceded land and near water traditionally stewarded by the Council of the Three Fires, I want to acknowledge and offer solidarity with people displaced from their homelands. And this is a quote, "From bank to bank of the river, as far as you can see, the ancient story made anew." That quote's from Linda Hogan of the Chickasaw Nation. Please listen to her poem, "The Sandhills."
This is Linda Hogan reading The Sandhills. The language of cranes, we once were told, is the wind. The wind is their method, their current, the translated story of life they write across the sky. Millions of years they have blown here on ancestral longing. Their wings of wide arrival, necks long, legs stretched out above strands of earth where they arrive with the shine of water. Stories interminable, language of exchanges descended from the sky. And then they stand, earth made only of crane, from bank to bank of the river, as far as you can see, the ancient story made new.
So welcome once again. This night is especially poignant for me because I've known Patricia for around 20 years, something like that, and she has had a profound impact on me both on and off the page. I consider her a friend. whether she considers me that or not. Um, a poetry conspirator and someone whose life work has inspired me in immeasurable ways. Her brilliance informs my poetry just as it has informed my work as an editor at Poetry Magazine. And so I want to share this like really quick anecdote about Patricia. Yeah, that's it, right? Like you trusted me with this? Yeah, okay. All right. And I told Patricia that I was going to talk about this. The first time I heard Patricia read was in 2005 at the Gwendolyn Brooks Conference at Chicago State. She shared some of the poems from the manuscript that would become Blood Dazzler. And anybody who's heard Patricia read understands her power, her ability to transform language from song to dance and then back to song again. The poem she read that day inspired me to finally, after like 3 years, start writing the monologues for the Big Smoke. We were staying in the Oak Lawn Hilton, if people know that. Like those who know, you know what I'm talking about, right? And after this day's event, we went back to the bar to have a drink or two or four. And Lynne Thompson was there, right? Hi, Lynne. You were there too, having like those well drinks with us. And to all of our delight, I think, there was this guy with a jerry curl, and he was singing covers of the Commodores and Al Green. And he was accompanied by a keyboard player and a guitarist, which is a really weird trio to me. But of course, he sang "Let's Stay Together" because that's what you do when you do Al Green. And of course, we try to harmonize with this too, in the habit of poets, right? And I should say that I tried to harmonize. I can't remember, Lynn, if you were keeping up or not, but I remember. She doesn't remember. She said that she doesn't remember any of this. Like none of this happened in Lynn's life. But I tried to harmonize. But Patricia actually did it. Like right, she was singing the song better than the Jerry Curl dude was singing it, and it was like. But in that moment, like I had this new friend, and this metaphor for her now was really present right in front of me. Right, she took over that song. It was singing it like beautifully and loudly, the same way her poems take over the page or the stage or this room. Right. When she starts to do her thing, hers is the only voice you're going to be able to hear. Like that's it. It's over. She is her own Hall of Fame, and I am so grateful to be here with you all to honor her with this Fuller Award, right? So now I'm going to bring up one of the other poets who inspired me to write poems, a mythical man, Reginald Gibbons, who's got some other things to say. Come on up now, Reginald.
I timed this out. I'm going to start just with the Fuller Award. Fuller Award is a superb honor given to contemporary Chicago writers. It follows the historical dimension of Don Evans' Chicago Literary Hall of Fame, which celebrates and inducts earlier Chicago writers, and there's such a richness of them, from Henry Blake Fuller himself all the way to Gwendolyn Brooks, and beyond. The Chicago Literary Hall of Fame has established a righteous assembly of dazzling writers from many past decades. The Chicago Literary Hall of Fame preserves and promotes attention to true greatness, not only of Chicago writers themselves, but also of the many aspects of their insights into Americans, real and fictional, and the variety, hardship, triumphs, and imaginings of what so many greatly gifted Chicago writers have captured in their work for all time. Almost 70, all of whom contributed immense riches to American writing, almost 70 in the list of the Chicago Literary Hall of Fame. If you have supported the Chicago Literary Hall of Fame in the past, please do so again. And please go to the website and see the list of Hall of Fame authors and Fuller Award winners. Now, I don't think we very often connect the word compassion with the word energy. But in so much of the work of Patricia Smith, these two poles of feeling combine. I was struck by both feelings the first time I heard Patricia give a reading. In 1981, I had just... Okay, let's not eat up too much of my time here, because I'm already old. And all right. In 1981, I had just come here to serve as the editor of Tri-Quarterly magazine, and I was beginning to meet poets in Chicago. What happened with tremendous intensity was the reading that I, lucky me, was invited to give with Patricia and Michael War back in the 1980s at the Red Lion in the 2000 block of Lincoln Avenue. In that block, there was Guild Books, one of the greatest bookstores ever. And it was in that store, I mean, greatest bookstores ever. I don't mean that it had more books. It had all the right books. It had all the books that really meant something. And it was in that store that more and more poets gathered over time and created in 1989 the Guild Complex. Looking back at those days, I realized how incredibly lucky I was to be in that back courtyard behind the Red Lion building to help create what we now call the Guild Literary Complex. And now I understand how amazing was the coincidence of the presence of a metaphorical lioness, the phenomenal Patricia, who was already a towering winner of Slam Awards, and also the presence of Michael, who was the one who pulled together the group that would create the Guild Literary Complex. We were continuing and intensifying our commitment to literary multiculturalism, American multiculturalism of poets and writers. But now I return to compassion and energy. In Patricia's dazzling, deep-feeling, hyper-perceptive portrait book, Unshuttered Poems, she creates poems to accompany, to reveal, to honor persons in her collection of 19th century photos of Black Americans. These are the poems that were inspired by those photos. The photos are formal and resonate with deep dignity, presence, family ties, Black society, grace, seriousness, and life stories that certainly had weathered disappointments and hard times, as well as people's energetic response to life. The poems fill in an imagined restoration of the persons and the subtleties of how they present themselves to the camera. So of course, Patricia won the 2021 Ruth Lilly Award for Lifetime Achievement as a Poet with that book and other books. An attentive reader of her, I'm following Adrian a bit here, but I didn't know I was going to. An attentive reading of her work hears how she has moved like some jazz singers from one style to another, from description to richer and richer voicing and melodies. And a recent poem of hers that has utterly bedazzled me is the astonishing artistic feat of her long poem, Salutations in Search of, in which 12 rhymed iambic pentameter sonnets bring us a dazzlingly masterful inventiveness of both spirit and homage in all walks of life, of both keen perceptiveness of people and the paradox of her rollicking and yet somber language. Those of you who know her books have read her extraordinary double golden shovel poem, quote, black poured directly into the wound, and her gorgeously written and rhymed sorrowing poem, Incendiary Art, which is also the name of that book of poems. And just to mention one more blockbuster, her forensic poem, and whoever thought of that, No Wound of Exit. I feel enormously grateful to speak about Patricia's dazzling, inventive, virtuoso, passionate work, and I congratulate her with all my heart on the Fuller Award.
All right. Just in case you don't know, the shit is about to get real different. Look here. I ain't playing no games with nobody up in here. I don't know what church you come from, but the church I come from, when somebody talk, it's all right to say something back. All right? I know. We on Superior. Between Dearborn and, yeah, I know. But look here. Portillo's right around the corner. So we can act like we can get out of our skin because we truly got, yeah, we get our skin over you, Patricia Smith. We get out our bodies. We can catch the Holy Ghost because of you. That's what we can do. We love you. And we hear everybody in here loves you. I hope everybody in here knows her work. If you do, if you in here and you don't know her work, thank the person who brought you here. Thank them real good. Thank them real good, okay? And then immediately go and find some of her work to get to know personally. You know what I'm saying? So, my name is Avery R. Young. I am from the West Side. I am from the West Side of Chicago. I am going to be your host for the evening. And I'm going to treat this just like I'm at a Baptist church somewhere. And I'm going to say, giving honor to God, who's the head of my life. And to all my brothers and sisters in Christ, it is true, indeed, a pleasure to be back in the house of the wonderful one more again. I like to, there's a list of wonderful clergy folk who going to come up here and render poems and things of that nature. And I'm gonna read my poem, and then I'm gonna introduce my baby Jamila, and then we just gonna kick it off just like that. If I had a church in this building right now, somebody would say amen. Thank you very much. I'm just checking. Um, Big sis, I couldn't. I had so many things to do today, and I couldn't really think about what to read or perform. But I'm working on a new work titled "Name the Ludus," and and this is probably gonna happen somewhere in that situation. It's called Miss Essie Maid's Blues, an altercation out west, circa 1985. God give us neighbors, some good, some bad, and a bunch in between. God give us neighbors who will bring you pie or steal your greens. Oh, God gives us neighbors who will pray with you or pour you a drink. God gave me a neighbor who know my man more than I could ever think. God gave me a mother who believes everything she says is true. She said, child, trust in your man, round your neighbor, I wouldn't do. I said, mother, I won't go into the details, but that man ain't going nowhere. She said, child, you talking bed tricks. I'm talking about matters of care. Now God gives us hands that cook and kill. God gives us a heart when you think it won't, is the time that it will. Oh, God gives us a mind that do things for real or things in play. This blues is about the time my God-given mind slipped away. Lord, 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 I miss that man. Lord, 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 Lord. Just yesterday, walking the floor, I said, I miss that man. Oh, but Lord, 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 why you a better friend to my neighbor? Hey, the next poet, I saw this one walking in. I was looking for it. I saw it walking in, and I was like, "You ain't got nothing else, Avery, need to tell nobody, do you?" No, 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 I don't. I said, "Good," because I want to MC from the heart and not from the paper. All right. And this one right here, I'm trying to tell y'all. I met this one. I was subbing for Marlon Escara, Gallery 37. This one and a bunch of other good, good and folk who done grown up and become many wonderful things were in this poetry class. And I assigned them as a quick writing assignment, haiku, right? 575, 575. And I made it the juke song. That's how they learn. That's how they learn. And in this one, I'm trying to tell you, wrote a haiku. Jamila, you 14, 15 years of age. And I'm just like, God damn. It's just 17 syllables. It's the 575. What else can she do? Sometimes I don't feel bad, but I look at it back now. But like everybody else had read their haikus. I'm like, okay, cool, next. Okay, cool, next. Okay, cool, next. Ooh, great. I like that line. I like that line. I like that line. She read hers and I said, hey, you, don't don't ever stop writing. She paid attention to me too. Come up here, Jamila Woods.
Thank you, Avery. Hi, Patricia. So the first poem that I ever read of Patricia's was What It's Like to Be a Black Girl, for those of you who aren't. And it was the for those of you who aren't in parentheses that opened up something in me. It gave me a radical permission to put my story at the center, to see the glory of the everyday minutia of my life and make it a poem. And you said, if you don't commit to telling your own story, believe me, someone else will tell it for you. I appreciate you not only for the ways your work has encouraged me to tell my own personal stories, but also how you've shown me what it means to be a poet, how to metabolize the world through the lens of poetry. Back in 2019, you were on a panel, and I asked you about the ethics of persona poems because I became obsessed with persona poems after I saw Skinhead. And I was inspired by Blood Dazzler, the way that you were able to write about something not having lived through it or not having been from that place. And you said, I've always considered myself a witness, and you cannot expect people to just witness what they already know. You saw Katrina unravel, and it wasn't a regional disaster, it was a human story. You said this country is capable of so much we do not know. I'm not trying to tell the whole story, I'm trying to tell what we all saw. Thank you for showing me how to witness, how to be a personal historian, how to imagine, how to ask questions and listen for the poem to respond. I want to read one of my favorite poems by you that inspired me to write about my own name in poem and in song. This is called Should Have Been Jimmy Savannah. My mother scraped the name Patricia Ann from the ruins of her discarded Delta, thinking it would offer me shield and shelter, that leering men would skulk away at the slap of it. Her hands on the hips of Alabama, she went for flat and functional, then siphoned each syllable of drama, repeatedly crushing it with her broad, practical tongue until it sounded like an instruction to God, not a name. She wanted a child of pressed head and knocking knees, a trip up in the double Dutch swing, a starched pinafore and peppermint in the sour pickle kind of child, stiff-laced and unshakably fixed on salvation. Her Patricia Ann would never idly throat the Lord's name or wear one of those thin sparkled skirts that flirted with her knees. She'd be a nurse or a third-grade teacher or a postal drone, jobs requiring an alarm clock discipline and sensible shoes. My 4 downbeats were music enough for a vapid life of butcher shop sawdust and fatback as cuisine, for raid spritzed into the writhing pockets of a Murphy bed. No crinkled consonants or muted hiss would summon me. My daddy detested boarders. One look at my mother's watery belly and he insisted, as much as he could insist, with her, on the name Jimmy Savannah, seeking to bless me with the blues-bathed moniker of a ball breaker, the name of a grown gal in a snug red sheath and unlaced all-stars. He wanted to shoot muscle through whatever I was called, arm each syllable with tiny weaponry so no one would mistake me for anything other than a tricky whisperer with a switchblade in my shoe. I was bound to be all legs, a bladed debutante hooked on Lucky Strikes and sugar. When I sent up prayers, God's boy would giggle and consider. Daddy didn't want me to be anybody's surefire factory, nobody's callback or seized rhythm, so he conjured a name so odd and hot, even a boy could claim it. And yes, he was prepared for the look my mother gave him when he first mouthed his choice, the look that said, "That's it, you done lost your goddamn mind." She did that thing she does where she grows 2 full inches with righteous, and he decided to just whisper, "Love you, Jimmy Savannah," whenever we were alone, and rechristening me, the seed of Otis, conjuring his own religion and naming it me. Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. You wrote that. Yeah. Look, I'm just saying. You wrote it. You know, I'm going to tell somebody you did that. I'm going to tweet it. Here it is, the fire. All right, next poet that's coming to the stage is Niveah Glover. You all get. Yeah, I know. Already.
My name is Niveah, and it's okay because my mom put an H at the end of it, tried to be special, and now nobody can pronounce it, but it's all right. I hope everyone is well tonight because I know I am. Tonight, I am living my dream in an unreal full circle moment. I read my first Patricia Smith poem when I was 14, and I was desperately searching for a voice like hers. When I was somewhere between baby poet and newly great young slam champion, the poem was Siblings from her 2008 poetry collection Blood Dazzler. The language was so intentional, beautiful, and like she often says in her poetry, fatty. Reading it would single-handedly change the way I viewed poetry, how images could be used, and I would later study her extensively for months, doing a long artist study of under the guise of Tiffany Melanson, who often uses the quote, "Go so deep into yourself you speak for everyone." And that is how I feel when I read or speak her work. She is a master of sound, a conqueror of form poetry, and a mountain of voice and persona. Not just one, but a 4-time individual national slam champion. And as a slammer, that is very hard. I knew when I was working toward becoming the 2024 Poetry Out Loud champion that that I didn't want to just do any poem. I wanted to do it with the work of a woman whose words amplified Black women, girls, and people everywhere. So this is my performance of her poem, Hip Hop Guzzle. Thank you, Miss Smith, for all the voices that you have captured and all the voices you helped birth. From me and all the young poets everywhere. Gotta love us brown girls, munching on fat, swinging blue hips, decked out in shells and splashes, lordy, bringing them woo hips. As the jukebox teases, watch my sisters throat the heartbreak, inhaling bass line, cracking backbone, and singing through hips. Like something boneless, we glide silent, seeping between floorboards, wrapping around the hems, and ooh-wee, clinging like glue hips. Engines grinding, rotating, smoking, gotta pull back some. Natural minds are lost at the mere sight of ringing true hips. Gotta love us girls. Just strutting down Manhattan streets, killing the menfolk with a dose of that stinging view. Hips. Crying about getting old. Patricia, you need to get up off what God gave you. Say a prayer and start slinging. Cue hips. Thank you.
I don't know about y'all, but I'm gonna start taking offering in a moment. Ah! And I ain't gonna give nobody the money. I'm gonna keep it. Wow, thank you, Niveah. That was really, really beautiful. That was really beautiful. And again, you wrote it. I mean, nobody to blame but you. Nobody to blame but you. All right. Oh my gosh. It is a pleasure and an honor to introduce the next poet. You know, sometimes when you look for something and it ain't there, the best thing to do is to make it. Because then you know you're getting what you want. And with no further ado, Marc Smith.
In the beginning, there was a party. I think it was connected to the first NutriTurf Festival sponsored by the Feminist Writers Guild. The party, I think, was at Michael Ward's apartment. A lot of I thinks, because this is almost 40 years ago.
I do remember that Richard Hunt, the sculptor, was there, and Julie Parsons, and maybe John Sheehan and Tony Fitzpatrick. The Feminist Writers Guild was an organization that it didn't exclude the outsiders like so many other poetry institutions did back then. It was Sunday afternoon. Patricia was there. I didn't know her. In a small conversation around a coffee table, it came up that she had just earlier that day read for the first time in front of a public audience. I don't remember what open mic it was, but I do remember someone saying, "Hey, why didn't you go up to the Green Mill tonight and do it again?" She did. And like so many others in those early years, the Uptown Poetry Slam became a Sunday night must-be there for her. It was the 4th year of the performance poetry movement, which actually began on Monday nights at the Get Me High Jazz Club in Wicker Park, before most anybody knew where Wicker Park was. The slam was taking off. Dismissed as a lowbrow barroom fad by certain institutions.
That's not poetry. That's not real poetry.
I'm being nice. It already had passed on to Ann Arbor, Milwaukee, St. Louis, and Cleveland. Bob Holman in New York got wind of it and resurrected the New Rican Poetry Cafe via the strength of its growing popularity. Performance was the magic. Competition was the theatrical device by which it exported across the country and ultimately the world. I think it's safe to say that Patricia loved competition. Her talent was immense, both as a writer and a performer. Many remember her outside the Green Mill rehearsing her poems on the street corner, laser focused. And they remember her winning a lot. And it mattered to her winning. But I'm sure it mattered more to be communicating all those thoughts, feelings, images, smells, sounds, conflicts, questions, and desires stored up in her soul since the day she began to think, feel, hear, see, or smell. I understood that passion and the brutal honesty that made her words come alive on stage. It was the same passion that exploded in me the first time I read a poem in front of a bunch of strangers. Very few of us had any training in performance. We learned from each other on the spot, making it up and adding to it Monday after Monday, Sunday after Sunday. David Hernandez and I went to see Lois Weisberg. Yeah, give it up for David. We went to see Lois Weisberg, the Commissioner of Cultural Affairs, in her cubbyhole office across the street from the downtown library to ask for support in staging a second Neutral Turf Festival. In typical Lois Weisberg fashion, we left strapped with a commitment to create a citywide slam competition that would be part of a larger Sister Cities festival that Lois and her staff of brilliant women were engineering. Poem for a sock. Patricia won that competition in a trip to Japan. Gary Glazner had attended the Neutral Turf Festival and witnessed the slam competition and Patricia's winning performance. He went back to San Francisco charged up. A few months later, he called with a proposal to host a slam competition of his own between poets from New York, San Francisco, and Chicago. I went to Lois to get funding for an airline ticket to San Francisco, intending to send Patricia as our representative. She said, why send one poet? Send a team. We did. Sin Salach, Dean Hacker, Patricia, and myself. In the motel room before the event, a very important thing happened. The four of us gathered together in a circle. I guess you'd call it a group hug now. We knew we had discovered something that had been lost, at least within the American poetry establishment: performance. And we knew its power. And we knew that we could go into that competition strutting our stuff and kicking ass. We did kick ass. But we chose, tearfully so, to treat what we discovered as a gift to be passed on. And that's what we did. That's what slam organizers across the world do. That's what Patricia did when she and Michael Brown moved to Boston and nurtured its spread throughout the Northeast. There are slam advocates, performers, and organizers like her all over the world, bringing the richness of poetry alive through performance, through slam. Thank you, Patricia.
This is a really good night. I don't know what I did to get here, but I'm gonna do it again. I'm back. So moving along, we have I know I wanted to say. I remember when you was winning all them slams, and a lot of people say congratulations, but a lot of people don't say congratulations, and they usually louder than the people who say congratulations. And I know you're from the West Side of Chicago. And I know I'm from the West Side of Chicago. And I remember having a conversation with somebody who wasn't saying congratulations. And I said, wait a minute. I'm from the West Side of Chicago. I know. I was just dancing and praising the Lord outside. But you say one more thing. I'm from the West Side of Chicago. It was respected. And I was just like, what the conversation we've had about it was like, okay, just write another poem. And the way this works with the numbers and stuff, somebody gonna think it's better. I mean, that's what I gotta do. I gotta write a better poem. And I told them what you told me. I said, so you mad at the wrong motherfucker. She from the West Side of Chicago. That's how this gonna go. All right. Next person that's on stage is my good big sis right here. And she did request that I share this with you all. Brooks' permission. We're shining a global spotlight on living Black female poets. Nominate your favorite poets. Am I doing it right, Nora? Nominations start August 7th and they end August 28th. That's 21 days, 3 weeks. Count it. Email us at info@gwendolynbrooks.com. net. And on the subject line, type living legacy. And what you do in the body of the email, I don't know. But it should go a little something like this. Kick it. Yo, I think Jamila Woods, I think Niveah, I think Krista, I think Erica, I think Patricia, I think a whole bunch of female poets. 5, right? They get to nominate 5? Up to 5. Up to 5. You nominate, you write good letters about them, tell them that they make good potato salad with no raisins. Whatever is gonna happen. But that's what you do. You nominate them, and then a panel of good folk will then select who would be the living legacy of Gwendolyn Brooks, right? A global celebration of black female poets and the tradition of Mama Gwendolyn Brooks. Please welcome a wonderful writer and worker in her own right, Nora Brooks.
Okay, the idea was supposed to be that then I didn't have to say anything about except what I was going to say about Patricia. But what I will say is, it's not all that complicated. You just email us your information, and we will send you the nomination form. So that's all you got to do. Just give us your contact. So, okay. So, having said that, I will say 4 minutes, 32 seconds, because Don wasn't playing, and he made it clear how long we were supposed to talk. So 4 minutes, 32 seconds. Patricia Smith is a Gwen geek. She loves her some Gwendolyn Brooks. And that was one of the first things that endeared her to me. But it's not just that she demonstrated an affinity for the work and the woman. No, it is that she continues that tradition of care and of commitment to the culture, to the blooming, to the grooming, and to the continuation of writers. Sauti is a Swahili word for voice. In his foreword to Annie Allen, the 75th anniversary edition, Hakeem Madhubuti said, Brooks never, I repeat, never betrayed her calling to be a voice, an example for the voiceless and powerless. So let's pause for a moment at the corner of Brooks and Smith. Yes, like my mother, Patricia is a woman who gives a voice not just to the voiceless, but to the voiced as well, because everyone needs a speaker for now and then. And like my mother, she is a world watcher who sees and clarifies. And like my mother, she makes the ordinary extraordinary. So, like my mother, people want to know about Patricia Smith's legacy. People are always asking people about their legacy. What do you want your legacy to be? They chirp. So, in a sneaky attempt to get someone to help me write this speech, I sort of asked Patricia Smith that question. Only I asked her, what if you could ask people to act on your priority legacy dream right now, while you're here? What is that dream? Patricia said, that dream is to find that sweet spot in language, that explosive instance in which everyone sees themselves. It has nothing to do with ethnicity or dialect. I once wept listening to a Swedish poet recite in his own language. It's being able to turn words into the air surrounding them. Then everyone can hear. She added, your mother was able to do that. I asked her, why is that your dream? Patricia said, I guess I'd say personal reasons, which is where we all begin. It's so easy nowadays to forget why those of us who are storytellers chose that wavering glory, that jubilation and revelation and hurt. Storytelling is everything we ever had. Yet we hurt and suspect before we learn. We harbor misconceptions that turn to vitriol and gunfire. We don't realize that hearing is another way to see. There's no way to know one another without stories. I asked her, how would you want people to act on it? And Patricia said, I want the world to be different. No matter how much it flaunts its ugliness, its tendencies toward misunderstandings and miscommunication and war, I want it to change. And I could see how it could be done. I can hear how it must be done. So simply, I will tell you my story, and you will tell me yours. I should stop there. Really, I'd like to stop there because that is one awesome closing line. But before I go, I have to praise Patricia's commitment to and demonstration of that line in everything she does. This woman, this writer, this Fuller Award winner continues to tell her own story, and in doing so, tells ours, even when we can't always find the words to tell them ourselves. A Patricia quote, I am queen of my thin path, says an unshuttered avatar. Yeah, well, some pathways are thinner than others, but somehow Patricia Smith keeps striding them triumphantly, bearing her vessel of words and wisdom right back to us. Congratulations, Patricia.
I am the happiest person in the world right now. Wow. Okay. Uh, Thank all of you. And I have a few things I really wanted to say. And so as you listen, you're going to wonder what I'm saying. Wonder what I'm saying has to do with Gwendolyn Brooks. Don't worry, I'm going to tell you. It is October 28th, 2023, and I'm in a nursing home in North Lake, Illinois, sitting approximately 5 feet away from my emptied mother. What does it mean when the person is emptied? It means their lives have pried them open and left. It means that they are less person, mostly shell. It means there but for the grace of God. Over and over, never stopping, my mother pulls the bones of her fingers through straight up shocks of white silver hair so dry it crackles with each slow pull. She pulls up as if she is trying to disappear by lifting herself out of the room. There's a rhythm to the crackle of the strands, and that rhythm takes the place of speech. Her mouth moves constantly, opening and closing and opening and closing like a baby tasting something sweet and red. And that soft smacking is the only sound in the room. Her eyes are dim, clawing for focus beneath layers of cloud. She can no longer see the 94 years she has lived. She can no longer see the woman who has lived those 94 years. I ask her a series of questions, simple questions that daughters typically ask their emptied mothers. Do you remember my name? Do you know who you are? Where are we right now? Do you know who I am? What did you eat today? Where is your daughter? Are you tired? Do you want to lie down? Do you know anyone named Patricia? Do you know Annie? Hearing those last few questions, her body stiffens and she shakes her head no from side to side with such vehemence that spittle flies from the corner of her mouth. She has asked these questions often and she has tired of them. She does not know Patricia. She does not know Annie. My name is Patricia. Her name is Annie. The silence in the room is monstrous, sloppy and flirting with tears. It will not be controlled, and it spills beyond its borders until it is a thing starker than silence. What does this have to do with Gwendolyn Brooks? Just sit still. I'm gonna tell you. I am still in the room with my mother. She is much smaller than I remember, her spine no longer doing its good work. It looks as if someone has poured her into her wheelchair. Her little body droops, begging for the coolness of the floor. I keep on with my questions, and she keeps on not answering until I ask again if she knows Patricia or Annie. Then she answers fiercely with her whole head, side to side. No, no, no. I go back to my questions. Did you eat anything today? Are we in Chicago? And I am talking to a wall until I'm not. Suddenly she leans forward, her milky eyes narrowing, looking for mine. She grabs the arms of the chair and hefts her whole self forward, straining for focus. This is what hope looks like now. A mother maybe trying her best to see you, and you think maybe now she will conjure a name close to yours. Maybe that name will fill her mouth and her head, and some God will grant you a second of grace. Maybe then you can finally tell her how poetry has burned you another history, and maybe your mother will finally ask, and maybe she will smile again with all the knowing of you. But my mother does not smile. Her eyes are needles as she remembers just enough of me. The soft smacking stops. You are ugly. Her voice is like dust, raspy and unpracticed. Her dimming eyes pin me to the past. You ugly, she spits again, throwing her whole tiny self into the two words. And although all we are questions, the two of us, I know exactly where that comes from. She didn't remember my name, but she knew who I was after all. What does this have to do with Gwendolyn Brooks, you ask? Hold on, I'm going to tell you. I was a child taught to escape. I was taught that I had to escape my skin, which my mother called your too black self, as she mixed baby lotion with poisonous skin tone cream, pinched my nose to narrow its landscape, scrubbed the darkness of summer play from the back of my neck with a washcloth dipped in Lysol, poured Tide laundry detergent into my bath water. I was taught that I needed to escape the black that surrounded me, otherwise known as the West Side of Chicago, all that black that kept me ugly and stupid and all the way down. I was nobody good and I was nowhere good. The West Side was the part of town everybody told everyone else to stay away from. The rest of the city thought that the folks who lived there were loud and ashy and boorish, undeserving of stores with fresh meat and vegetables. We were isolated, uninvited to the city that grew around us. Don't go downtown. Horrified sales girls shuddered as we picked up a lipstick in Marshall Fields, afraid we'd move it to our bubbled lips. May I help you? We are dressed for fight and flight. PF flyers and sweat socks pushed down on Vaseline legs. We jumped double dutch like we were possessed, and our calves popped such unladylike muscle. No movies came near us. And in every house, a gray and black image taped to the refrigerator, yellowing in the shadow box, ripped from Jet magazine, Emmett Till, a lesson in his casket. My mother's warning always included a bit of slavery. If you don't act right with white people, this is what they can do to you. What does this have to do with Gwendolyn Brooks? If you're a black woman and therefore smarter than most, you probably know by now, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. I was blessed enough to breathe the air that Gwendolyn breathed. She blurbed my first book. I followed her in total awe to schools, libraries, huge auditoriums, hole-in-the-wall bookstores. I watched and learned as she loved everything black, including me, out loud. I can see her now, those sensible shoes, that wrapped hair, those Coke bottle specs, pulled so low she looked over them to see the world, that languid unreal of speech, all the down home you never knew. Child, what are you escaping to? There I was, looking for the top of the place I was, looking for the next place, looking for another home, another skin, fixed on Madison Street, looking all the way over all that Negro, all the way down to the glittery towers of white people who had to accept me, who had to love me, because I was my mother's daughter, and she had taught me well. Of course, like so many of you, I struggled to learn Gwendolyn's craft, so accessible and inaccessible at the same time. All those words we used in all the ways we thought we could never use them. Mama Gwen taught us how to find a story. Open yourself up as wide as you want to and look inside. But for me, her lessons went far beyond even that miracle. Child, look at where you are. Look at the blessings you're trying so hard to be beyond. Child, look at where you are. Look at the portly butcher in his apron weighed down with blood and sawdust. Child, look at where you are. Look at the Reverend Matthew Thomas half moonwalking across the pulpit at 75 and singing in tongues that were not his. Child, look at where you are. Listen to the weary blue note of the rat trapped under the stove in your kitchen. Look at where you are. Look at that girl you went to school with, pregnant, hugely too, in your 8th grade picture. Child, look at where you are. Look at your mama, steady hating the you are. Look at how she pretty anyway. Look at all that Alabama in her throat. Now hear it in your own. Sometimes, many times, we need other mothers. We stitch them together from aunties, elders, sisters your own age who make you throw back your head and laugh and snort and slap your knees. Elders named Gwendolyn, Charlene, Alice, Sonia, Paula, Margaret, women who teach you to truly cry, women who feed the jukebox of you with quarters, women who are storytellers to their very bone. And then, the pumpers of gas, baggers of groceries, teachers of the young, keepers of the peace, drinkers of the shots, gardeners of the green, breakers of the law, the undertakers, the booksellers, the thieves, the professors, the slammers, and the non-believers. I was living among them in the midst of the only story I needed to tell, and I didn't know it. I know it now. Marc Smith, my brother and teacher and beacon in so many ways, helped me know it. Michael War, who unwrapped the Chicago poetry world for me, helped me know it. Sin Salach, Kwame Dawes, Louis Rodriguez said, "Do you have a manuscript?" And I said, "Yes," and I didn't have one, but Tia Chucha helped me know it. Gregorio Gomez and Sergio and Weeds and endless tumblers of tequila helped me know it. Haki Madhubuti helped me know it. Rick Cogan and Sharon Barrett helped me know it. They knew and they loved my bumbling self, and they saw me at my lowest, but they helped me know it. That beautifully black whirling dervish of the word, Avery R. Young, helped me know it. Tyemba Jess with this brilliant upside down sideways poems helped me know it. Lisa Biscotti, the first slammer I ever saw, helped me know it. The Dark Noise Collective. My friend Lynn, such a blessing in these wild girl years, helps me to know it. The glory shelves of Guild Books helped me to know it. Reg Gibbons, the first person to publish one of my poems, he helped me know it. Kurt Heinz, Kurt Ann, Bang Ann, all helped me to know it. All of you needed and loved, and right here when I need you the most, you helped me know it. And Gwendolyn Brooks helped me know it. Taught me to look at where I am and to love it as hard as I could, as hard as I can. She taught me to look at who I am and to love me and us as hard as I could, as hard as I can. She said the black of it, the rust red of it, the milk and cream of it, the tan and yellow of it, the deep brown, middle brown, high brown of it, the olive and ochre of it. So, bona fide, an original Chicago West Side colored girl, I leaned into my meaningful metamorphosis. I studied my skin as it was mine again, and not my mother's. I rose among storytellers, not beyond any single one of them. I skinned my knees on concrete glittering with glass, rejoiced at the double negatives and perfectly wrought metaphors we sing. I'll tell you who I am and who I done been. I am Patricia Ann Smith, born of the west side of the city every city wishes it was. If there was no storm, there would be no sky. If there was no storm, there would be no sky. And if there was no west side, there would be no Chicago. My mother, Annie Pearl Smith of Aliceville, Alabama, died on March 15th, 2024, without saying another word beyond the two she left with me. but I can't help but smile, thinking of her there in the unknowable with Maria McCrae, Danny Solis, Gabrielle, Lucille Clifton, and Nora's mama. Gwen looking down and nudging my mama over and over. Annie Pearl, is that your baby girl down there in front of all them folks? Child, look at where she is. Thank you all. Maybe I don't need the mic because only a fool. I did not think this through clearly. Would come after Patricia. Well, you can hear me. Okay. Let me say it again. Only a fool. But she my boo. Wow, damn. I mean, when you give an acceptance speech, I want to thank, this one and that. No, this girl does something else. So, we've taken a breath. I told you I didn't bring any Kleenex. So I know you're all Chicago'd up in here, but I bring you greetings and love from Los Angeles, which is my hometown, as well as the rest of the world that you have captured. And reading the essays and the poems about you and thinking about this night, yes, you are a woman of Chicago, but you are a woman of so much more of the world. Los Angeles embraces you, and they say, ooh, Lynne's going to hang out with Patricia. We were recently in England together, raves, clapping, just like tonight, right? So beyond Chicago and everything that it means to you and you have meant to it, what does it feel like? What does community, particularly the literary community, mean to you as you write, as you think about it, as you take your spotlight in the world? Hello. Okay. Actually, Chicago, you know those old Verizon commercials where they'd have like the 50 people walking behind you? There is, Chicago has its own throat. I'm constantly fighting with people from New York, and, you just don't have it, Uh,
We're trying.
We're trying. There's something, and I think it started with people coming up from, my father came up from Arkansas, my mother from Alabama. I think it started there. There's a grit and a funk involved. Chicago does not care what you say it should be and what it should look like and how it should sound. And I was sent off into the rest of the world with that. A lot of it came from the slam and thinking about poetry and speech as music, thinking about poems as musical compositions, having someone with bongos come up on stage. One of the first things I did with music, it was disastrous, was I had a boom box and I had a tape in it and I play the tape, and then I'd do poetry, and I'd stop the tape, and then I'd put the tape, and sometimes the tape was on the wrong side, and I just had to improvise. Uh, but having a home, a first home the West Side, second home the Green Mill. And I've heard all kinds of things happen with people saying things about the slam and fighting it and saying it didn't start the way it started. It didn't start, the person who started it didn't start it, and I'll die on that hill. I would not be here, or would not have written the way I felt like writing if I wasn't pushed from behind by the best city on earth and the best storytellers in the world.
Well, I can tell you the rest of us are grateful. So grateful. The other thing that struck me about this evening is that we rightfully acknowledged all the many beautiful things that you've accomplished as a writer, as a person, as a mentor. I personally want to thank you publicly because you have made me better as a writer. I'm still working on it. One day I will write that Crown sonnet, which she won't let me talk about till I actually do it. I'm forbidden to really talk about it, so I snuck that in here. But you get this kind of award, and I'm thinking to myself, is she done? I know she's not done. This is a nice milestone, a fitting milestone, but I think I heard a little rumor about a book of selected poems. What's up with that? Little shout out to the new book.
Yes, I have a book of selected coming out in 2025. Thank you.
And she's alive.
And I'm alive. And I plan to have numerous parties in Chicago.
There you go. There you go.
So anybody's house or anything, that'd be great. I'm looking. One of the things about a selected, though, you look back and God, I was thinking of some of the poems of my first book, and I read them, and I'm trying to correct them as I go along because I've learned so much, and I go, that abstraction is not going to. But then I thought it's worthwhile. I think for me at least as a teaching tool. This is like, well, this is when I started. This is when I started being interested in form. This is when I found out that you didn't have to always write a persona poem. When I first discovered persona, it was like everything. It's like, oh, I wonder what it's like to be a gym shoe. Oh, I wonder what, because it was so, I saw Lisa Biscotti and I just went, that's what I want to do with my life. But no, you don't have to do that. And so I'm leaving the poems as they are, in tribute to where I came from. And you can almost look and see the time this was written, the time, that's when she met Louis, and that's when so I'm really happy about being able to do that. It's another tribute to the city, I think. I'm also writing a novel. Yeah. But I did find out something you guys might be interested in. During the pandemic, I took a lot of classes as I was thinking, oh, this is great. How to write a novel, 10 easy steps to write a novel. Write your novel today, I took all these online classes, and I will tell you in no uncertain terms that the best grounding for writing a novel is to be a poet. Because we take huge, unwieldy stories and put them in these tight, controlled spaces. And when you open up that tight, controlled space, the whole story is still there. And I would do things in those classes, and they go, it's nothing that any of us in this room can't do, but don't tell them. Let them keep on with their words and words and words and words. and we'll just do our thing. But yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing training. And I don't think, I do have to say that there was a certain time and a number of places that time or the places will not come back again in the same way. If you wrote a poem back when I was at the mill every Sunday, you traveled there were like 3 places a night that you could go and read poetry during the week, and it would be all of us just going. All of us, just a big pack of people over here, over there, and that I don't know where anything like that exists anymore. The way we grew together and knew each other and supported and knew each other's work, there is nothing else like. I didn't see anything like that then, and I certainly don't see it now. That time was it was a very special, very unique time, and I think it was unique to us. I don't think New York had it. I don't think, honestly, I don't think the West Coast had it. I don't think DC had it. Chicago had it. Chicago keeps it. I told somebody earlier, I said, my entire life is in this room. All of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, the nurturing, my friends who I haven't seen in years, who it looks like I just saw you yesterday. It's because if there's another word beyond community, that's what we have. That's what we have. And if there's another word beyond family, we've got that too. So I just say we won't ever lose that. And that's what makes us, we stay strong in the word all the time. And that's what makes us. That's what gives us that strength, is to come from this place and have lived through the times that we lived through.
Well, I think I can speak for all of us in this room and beyond, those of you who are on Zoom. We're glad we are part of your family. We love you. I think I have time for one more short question. I think, Adrian, I was so happy that you played that Linda Hogan poem, and I made myself a note because this made me think of Patricia when she said, "The ancient story made new." And the way that I watch you constantly reinvent and explore ways to be in the world as the world changes for better or for worse, to some of us. How do you do it? I just want you to just give us one little thing that we can go home and say, I'm going to write a poem like Patricia Smith, which we're not going to do, but it gives us something to aspire to. Tell us how you do it, Boo.
I hate to I'm going to go back just for a second and say that one of the things that kept me energized in writing was knowing that every Sunday I was going to the Green Mill, and you could not slack. You had to come. You were constantly reinventing, coming up with something new, and the way Marc said about me in competition, but it was really being in competition with myself a lot. What boundaries can I break? What can I do that's new? What can we talk about next? Where can we go next? And also, we are so tired of being pummeled by the same stories, the bad news. And I think the key is I need to help you or try to get you to see the world in a way that you haven't seen it before. Unexpected entry point, a form, I was laughing when I was talking about Tayemba. It's like, okay, now you can read the form across the street. Now you can read it up and down. Now you can read it with your eyes closed, But, all he's doing really is we're trying to make the stories new, because the news is, as you say, worse and worse. And but we can't stop talking. We can't harbor secrets. We can't be storytellers if we're only telling the stories to ourselves. So to have somebody sit up and say, I know that story so well, and I've never heard it that way before, that's all that we want. So every time you just have to break something, break the glass, break the boundary, say the word that no one's heard in quite that way.
My mantra is always, can I send this draft of a poem to Patricia? Yeah, I don't think so, right? Because it's not doing that. I'm so proud of you, Boo. Congratulations.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
One more time for Patricia Smith, y'all. go sit back down. You can sit over there. You can sit there. No, no, actually, stay right there. All right, so look, it's coming to a close. I will give you the benediction. And this is how this is gonna work. Thank you one more again to Lynne Thompson for being in conversation with Patricia Smith. Thank you to all of the presenters that presented tonight. I did not read their bios, but everybody's bio is in your program. I'm telling you, everybody, if you hit a computer or your cell phone and you type their name in the Google triangle or rectangle, you'll find out a whole bunch about them. And Don, thank you on behalf of Patricia Smith. Look here. I'm trying to do what I'm supposed to be doing. All right, so, and mine is going to say I'm the inaugural Poet Laureate of the city of Chicago, but let me tell you something. Nope. Patricia Smith mentioned me in her acceptance speech. Ugochi. Can't nobody tell me nothing now. I said, shut the door. Anyway, we would like to thank the American Writers Museum. We would like to thank the Poetry Center, or Chicago Poetry Center, who is celebrating its 50th year in a exhibit that is happening right outside in that hallway. Yes, indeed. With the atrium. I'm sorry, I said hallway. West side of Chicago. Anyway. The Guild Complex, Lee and Low Books, the Shipman Agency, Third World Press. We would like to thank Michelle Boone, the lovely Michelle Boone, and the Poetry Foundation, and also the Chicago Literary Hall of Fame. Look, you got that award, but I got something for you, okay? Here we go. Now, I love you. That's all I'm going to say. I love you. And I don't know what you all don't know, but they only sell peppermint sticks in Christmas. They only sell peppermint sticks in the wintertime. And I'm like, what's going on? My mom and them had it all the time up in church. Peppermint stayed that way, let that woman's purse. In June and July. Anyway, my gift to you tonight is a hot pickle. And I searched all over, drove up and down the city, and found you a peppermint stick, baby.
Half the audience has no idea what we're doing.
Okay, that's all right. They don't need to know. They'll catch up. Google it. Now look, for those who don't know, I'll hip you to it. This right here is a hot pickle. You eat it, it's gonna be spicy. Okay? Now, back in the day, the black children on the south and west side of Chicago would go to the candy store. The candy lady at her house, what was a corner store, and what they would do, they would prepare a hot pickle. They will, out of the barrel, it didn't come in this thing right here. It didn't come in this thing, and it's kind of disappointing, because I really was looking forward to picking the pickle. I was gonna get you the big pickle. I will get the big pickle. And they cut the top, and in the middle, they stick a peppermint stick in it. Now, some people, I'm trying to tell you, don't eat their watermelon without salt. Some people don't eat their pickle without their peppermint stick. And this is that one right here. Eat that pickle without that peppermint stick. All day. All day. Peterson in Harlem. At a Dollar Tree. Hey, you all. I just want everybody to stand up. We're going to do a real official Baptist benediction. Everybody stand up if you have the ability to stand up, the capability, the capacity to stand up. I want you to look at your neighbor to the left, and I want you to say, I love you, neighbor. I want you to look at your neighbor to the right and say, you know what? I told that when I loved them, but I love you more. And there ain't nothing you can do about it. Wait, hold up. Little saying for serious. I know I told them I loved you, but I love you more. And there's nothing you can do about it. You all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your evening. One more again for Patricia Smith, the Fuller Awardee 2024.
What?